Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into something quite significant, how advanced AI surveillance is changing public safety in our cities. We're looking at that intersection, of surveillance cameras, facial recognition, and predictive policing. It's a real smart city crossroads.
Absolutely. And it's arguably one of the most critical governance debates happening right now. These
Right.
systems, they're shifting policing.
Shifting how?
Well, away from just reacting, like to a 911 call, towards something much more proactive, trying to predict, even prevent, incidents before they happen.
Right, proactive policing.
Exactly. And this shift, it's happening fast. It's driven by, security demands post 911, but also this big push for digital cities. So our mission today is to kind of synthesize the source material we've looked at.
Okay.
Balancing that promise of, amazing efficiency against what we know are pretty profound risks.
Right.
Risks to civil liberties, to equity.
And the scale, it's huge, isn't it? The data we reviewed suggests cities worldwide have jumped on board with facial recognition and biometrics in, 84% of cases? That's massive.
It is 84%.
Huh.
And when these systems get pitched, to city councils, they often come bundled with these really eye-popping vendor claims.
Like reducing crime by 30–40%, improving emergency response times dramatically.
Exactly. Those kinds of numbers, they sound fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the research we analyzed really urges extreme caution with those figures.
Why is that?
Well, often these claims just aren't independently verified. There's no real third-party auditing. And that right there, that's a major accountability red flag straight out of the gate.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So let's unpack this. Let's get into the tech itself. What makes up this AI police state starter pack, as our sources sometimes call it?
Right. It's basically 3 core technologies designed to work together, often in real time.
And it all starts at...
It starts with the eyes, the foundation, that pervasive network of surveillance cameras. They're everywhere, providing that constant stream of raw visual data. That's the input.
Got it. The eyes, then comes the brain, the intelligence layer.
Precisely. That's the facial recognition technology, FRT.
Yeah.
It's AI that analyzes facial features. It does 2 main things. Verification.
Like unlocking your phone, one-to-one.
Exactly. Proving you are who you say you are. Or, and this is a more controversial one for public spaces, identification. That's a one-to-many match.
Checking your face against a database, a watch list.
Right. Which allows for real-time tracking of people through that camera network.
Okay, cameras, FRT, what's the third piece?
That's the predictive part, predictive policing. This is where machine learning gets applied to huge data sets.
What kind of data?
Historical crime reports, demographic info, sometimes even real-time feeds from the cameras or social media. The goal is to forecast crime hotspots.
Where crime might happen.
Exactly. Or, and this is where it gets really contentious, trying to identify individuals flagged as high risk for future criminal activity.
Wow, high-risk individuals.
And what's really crucial here, and also frankly concerning, is how seamlessly these systems work together. They're highly interconnected.
So it's not just 3 separate tools.
Not at all. The cameras feed the FRT algorithms. The FRT data then informs the predictive models about who's moving where, who they're associating with. It's a network, often involving big private companies too.
Like who? Can you give an example of this public-private thing?
Sure. Well, you have firms like Palantir, known for building these complex, real-time surveillance data systems for law enforcement.
Okay.
Then domestically, think about Amazon's Ring doorbell network. They've partnered with, I think it's over 50 U.S. police departments now.
So my neighbor's doorbell camera could be feeding into a police network.
It potentially could, depending on the agreements. It sort of privatizes neighborhood surveillance infrastructure. And internationally, you see systems like Vumicam in Johannesburg, linking thousands of AI cameras together.
The moment you bring private tech into public policing like that, this issue of transparency, or rather opacity, jumps out, right? Our research pointed to very limited public disclosure.
Exactly. On the contracts, on data sharing rules, and especially how long they keep the data, the retention policies.
And that's a huge risk, the data retention.
It's a fundamental structural risk. If the public doesn't know the rules of the game, the city might be giving vendors or police the power to store biometric data indefinitely.
And biometric data, that's your face, your fingerprint, it's permanent.
It's permanent.
Right.
Unlike a password, you can't change your face.
Mm-hmm.
So if that data collected on a massive scale isn't subject to strict deletion rules, it just hangs around forever, ripe for misuse down the line.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What happens when these systems, these often proprietary black boxes, are fed bad data? We need to talk about algorithmic bias.
Yes, and often the sources suggest this bias isn't an accident. It's almost baked in.
How so?
Well, two main reasons. First, the algorithms themselves are usually trade secrets, proprietary. So the public, even the city using them sometimes, can't easily look inside to check for fairness.
Right, the black box problem.
Exactly. And second, they learn from data. Data created by humans reflecting historical patterns and, yes, historical biases.
Let's focus on FRT first. Where do the inaccuracies show up?
It's starkly demographic. Study after study confirms it. Error rates for facial recognition are significantly higher for Black, Asian, and Native American individuals compared to white individuals.
Significantly higher.
Yes. And also generally less accurate for women compared to men. So if you're, say, a Black woman, your risk of being falsely identified by the system, flagged incorrectly as a suspect, just skyrockets.
And that obviously has immediate real-world consequences.
Yes.
Wrongful stops, arrests.
Absolutely. It's not theoretical. And then predictive policing. It kind of takes that initial bias and runs with it.
Yeah.
Amplifies it, even.
How does it amplify it?
Because the models are typically trained on historical arrest data, not necessarily data on where crime actually occurred.
Ah, okay. That's a crucial difference.
It is. Think about it. If police historically patrolled neighborhood A much more heavily than neighborhood B, they likely made more arrests in A, regardless of the actual crime rates.
Right, more patrols, more arrests, even for minor stuff.
Exactly. So the algorithm looks at this data and says, aha, Area A has more arrests, it must be a hot spot. And what does it recommend?
Send more police back to Area A.
Precisely. It becomes a feedback loop, a self-fulfilling prophecy based on past policing decisions, not objective risk.
It's like training an algorithm on where speeding tickets were issued, not where people were actually speeding. It just sends cops back to the same roads.
That's a great analogy. And critics argue this essentially automates historical injustice. It puts a sort of veneer of science on potentially biased policing patterns, locking them in. Some sources even link it back to the origins of American policing, like slave patrols, in terms of controlling specific populations.
Wow, okay. And speaking of things locking in permanently, data vulnerability and this idea of function creep, we touched on biometric data being permanent.
Yes. If a database of faces gets hacked, that's not like losing passwords you can change. That harm is permanent, potentially lifelong.
And function creep, what's that about?
That's the really insidious part. It's when data collected for one stated purpose gets used for something else later, without new consent.
Give me an example.
Okay, maybe a city installs cameras with AI for, say, managing traffic flow. Sounds benign, right? Efficient city management.
Sure.
But because that data, including potentially facial data, is collected, centralized, maybe stored indefinitely, later on, it could quietly be repurposed.
Repurposed how?
Maybe to monitor people attending political protests, or track union organizers, or even assist federal immigration enforcement, all using the data collected for traffic management without any public discussion or new permission. It feels like a bait and switch.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech risks, the bias, the data issues. Let's move to the real world. What are the actual consequences we've seen in cities that adopted this tech early?
Well, the case studies are pretty sobering. Detroit's Project Greenlight is often cited.
What was that?
It integrated thousands of cameras, many at private businesses like gas stations, with the police department's real-time facial recognition system.
And the result?
It became notorious, primarily because it led to documented cases of wrongful arrests. Sources specifically point to an ACLU case involving a Black man misidentified purely based on an FRT match. He was arrested, held, despite clear warnings about the tech's flaws.
So a false positive with devastating consequences.
Exactly. And the public backlash was significant. It forced the city to eventually scale back its reliance on FRT.
And what about the promised effectiveness? Did it actually reduce crime as claimed?
That's another key issue. Look at Chicago's predictive policing program. The goal was laudable. Identify individuals likely to commit or be victims of gun violence to allow for intervention.
Okay. Did it work?
The program was eventually suspended. Why? Widespread criticism over the algorithmic bias we discussed, feeding racial disparities. But also, crucially, a lack of solid evidence that it actually worked, that it reduced violence or measurably improved safety.
So high risk of bias, low proof of benefit.
That's often the story, yes. And these technical failures, these wrongful arrests, they contribute to broader societal costs.
Like what?
like the erosion of anonymity in public. The very idea that you could walk down the street without being constantly tracked and potentially identified, that changes fundamentally.
The state gains this power to map your movements, your associations.
Even your lawful political activities, like
Yeah.
attending a protest, all potentially without needing a warrant or establishing any individual suspicion first.
And knowing you might be tracked like that, that has a psychological impact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Researchers call it the chilling effect. People start to self-censor. They might avoid certain places, certain meetings, certain online discussions because they fear being flagged by an algorithm.
We saw examples of that, right? Like the LAPD scanning social media.
Yes, the Los Angeles Police Department used AI tools to monitor social media, looking for keywords related to protests or potential unrest, essentially creating lists of dissenters based purely on their online speech or associations.
So you start policing yourself because you never know when the system is watching and judging.
Precisely. It fosters a climate of self-policing. And we have to stress, these technical and social risks are often enabled by, frankly, failures in governance.
How so?
Well, we see red flags in how the tech gets acquired. Things like single bidder contracts suggesting maybe favoritism, not enough scrutiny, or cities relying solely on vendor claims, self-ranked effectiveness numbers without independent validation.
So the process is flawed even before the tech is turned on.
Often, yes. The administrative oversight just isn't there.
And how are cities supposed to even audit these black box algorithms for bias if the code and the training data are secret, proprietary?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If a city buys a system but doesn't demand full access for independent auditing as part of the deal, they're essentially outsourcing constitutional accountability to a private tech company.
Which seems incredibly risky.
It is. And that's why these governance frameworks, the rules and regulations are so vital. In the U.S., though, the landscape is really patchy.
Patchy how?
Well, you have some cities, like San Francisco, Portland, Oakland, taking bold steps to ban municipal use of facial recognition entirely. But there's no comprehensive federal law governing AI and policing. It's state by state, city by city.
So where do we look for potentially better models, international examples?
The European Union is definitely ahead on this curve. Their AI Act, combined with GDPR, provides a much more robust framework.
What does it do differently?
It categorizes AI systems by risk level, and importantly, it places significant restrictions on using real-time remote biometric identification, basically, live facial recognition in public spaces. It sets a global standard showing strong ethical guardrails are possible.
Okay, so if federal action is slow in the U.S., what can cities do? What are the mitigation strategies sources recommend?
The first step has to be democratic control. That means implementing CCOPS laws.
CCOPS.
Community control over police surveillance laws. Seattle has one, several other cities too. The core idea is simple but powerful. The police can't acquire or deploy new surveillance tech without explicit approval from the elected city council.
So the public, through their representatives, gets a say before the purchase happens. It closes that loophole of just buying whatever tech they want.
Exactly. It brings transparency and public debate up front. Beyond that, you need technical mandates.
Such as?
Mandatory, regular, independent audits, checking for bias across all demographic groups, and really strict data minimization policies, meaning you delete data promptly. If someone is scanned or tracked but isn't actually part of an active criminal investigation or charged with a crime, their biometric data shouldn't be kept indefinitely. Delete it. Minimize the data footprint.
Are there specific technologies that the research suggests should just be off limits, banned outright?
Yes. Based on the consistent failures and bias issues, there's a strong argument being made to prohibit person-based predictive policing systems entirely. The ones trying to flag high-risk individuals.
Because they don't work well and are often discriminatory.
Right. And there's also a very strong call for at least a moratorium, if not a full ban, on live, real-time facial recognition in public spaces. The potential for mass surveillance and chilling effects is just seen as too high by many researchers and civil liberties groups.
This really brings us back to the design stage, doesn't it? This idea of privacy by design.
Absolutely. It means building privacy protections, transparency requirements, data minimization rules into the technology and the procurement process from the very beginning.
Not just trying to bolt them on afterwards when problems arise.
Exactly. It needs to be foundational. It's a cultural shift for cities and vendors as much as a technical requirement.
So wrapping this up, we're at a real crossroads.
We truly are. This integration of AI surveillance is forcing fundamental choices. The core dilemma, really, is how do we pursue security and efficiency, which are legitimate goals, without sacrificing core principles of equity, liberty, and democratic oversight?
And the path forward seems to require what?
Mandatory transparency.
Yeah.
Rigorous independent oversight. We can't just trust that systems bought through opaque deals will automatically align with justice and civil rights. Democratic control has to lead.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, something to reflect on. The source material strongly suggests the future quality of a smart city isn't just about how sophisticated its surveillance is, but about how strong its democracy is. So think about this. What essential democratic mechanism beyond just voting in council elections or attending police commission meetings, what else is needed today? What tool or process do we need to ensure the data being collected for efficiency doesn't end up permanently shrinking the space we all need for dissent, for free expression, for just being anonymous in public?
That tension between security and freedom, efficiency and equity, it's playing out right now.
It really is. Something to keep in mind as you observe your own city this week.